Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Findaway Productions with your co-host Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain here with Kenny Simpson. Coach, it's been a busy dead week. This y'all's dead week too?
Yeah, we have 2 dead weeks in Arkansas.
So y'all are still off next week, or
No.
you're finishing up?
Right.
So you started a week ahead of us. Got you. Well, that's interesting. Do you like it that way more, or do you prefer just one and done?
It works for me. I mean, I'm in a unique spot. I sell fireworks, and that's kind of right in the season. So it's married really well with what I need to have happen. So it's not really, it's dead week. I don't do football, but I'm probably as busy or more. We supplied like 9 tents with fireworks this year, and so I've been loading those in my trailer. Somebody right now is celebrating the 7th of July out right down the road. We're in Arkansas, where you just walk outside and shoot them off whenever. So that kept me really, really busy. I know a lot of coaches probably did vacations as well, but and that's what our episode is going to be on, so I don't want to kill too much there. And then I came back from fireworks season, and we've been loading a trailer and did a little flag football today, so I'm tired, but it's going to be a good week. I told my brother, he did fireworks with me. I said, now we get to go to our normal job Monday. We don't no rest for the weary.
That's right. We suffered the same fate, but it's 100% self-inflicted. Just trying to see family and friends, and we got the 2 and 6 year olds. We're trying to get them out to have a good time on vacation. And I haven't been around football in almost a month now, but it's in spring install just because of the military and then other work. But yeah, there's no rest. So the vacation was great. But you know how vacation is. The kids always wake up earlier, and then you're staying up later because it's just.
Well, my wife and I, we call them 2 different things. So we try as a couple, we take a vacation. With vacation means no kids. So like that's me and her, and we try to do something every summer, and we try to do something else after football. So we kind of have 2 times a year where we try to do something, her and I. And when things were lean, that might be driving to the town next door and getting a hotel and watching a movie. But going and getting out of the house and doing something. And then we call them trips. So like what you took was not a vacation, that was a trip, a family trip.
Absolutely.
Because it's a lot of fun and you need to do that. We try to do 2 of those a year. Usually beginning of the summer and then sometime like around spring break when everyone else probably does the same thing. So we label them, a trip is the kids are included and a vacation is no kids.
I would say I look forward to the day that my kids are old enough that I can be like, dump them off on the grandparents and there's not diapers to be changed or
we did it.
Bedtime fits to be thrown. Right now we kind of like having them. We've never not had them. I mean, we went on a cruise. Beckett went when he was 2. Mm-hmm. About that. And then, I mean, when he was 3 years old, I played in a softball tournament. Like we never did limit them from going anywhere. And it's made life a lot of fun because they've had a ton of experiences. There's a lot of people out there that have not been to Jamaica or, out of the country, but my 6-year-old now has, right? So it's little just culturizing for him. I don't know if culturizing is a word. Culturization? I don't know. I'm done. Anyway. Yes, well, it's late at night, so we're going to push through this. Maybe it won't be as short as last time when the batteries cut us short, but
sorry about that.
We will we'll get this punched out real quick. Coach, do you want to tell us how we can simplify football for ourselves and our staffs? What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. You're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for your that new stadium, or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Now, really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Del in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com. Awesome. Once again, guys, reach out to those guys, especially Mark. We got email from him the other day, and it was a coach that had heard of the on the podcast, the commercial, if you will, or the ad for the video boards. And I really hope that whoever coach it was, I hope you'll reach out to us. Just let us know how it's going, because I'm very interested in knowing if it's something you end up getting to knock out. Is it next year's project? And then the success story, because that's what we want to share, right? We love Mark and the guys and what they do. So you have got a new book out, you said.
Yeah, brand new book, Special Teams Coach Workbook. So essentially, it's in line with all the other workbooks. We've done the OC, the DC, the head coach position. This one took a while, because special teams it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. You got to think about all the things involved in the kicking game. So basically, the way the workbook is laid out is just like the other workbooks we've done. Is that we give a kind of an example, and then we organize kind of your mindset of what you need to think about, but then you literally fill it in. Like you go through and you fill it in with your depth chart, and you break down the opponent, because we can't do that for you. You know your kids more than we do. And then we have a section in the back of this. Probably my favorite section is all the different questions you need to think about. Like you don't have a kicker this year, or they have a D1 return guy. Those are the things you need to be thinking about right now, so that you figure out what you're going to do. So right now, for the next 2 weeks, or until I sell the first batch of them, we're offering, if you buy the physical book, we will send you the digital, and the digital is compatible with PowerPoint. So you can print off copies, draw on it. If you're a tech savvy guy, if you're old like me, you can just draw on the other book. So excited about that book. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. And then, the O-Line Academy has started, right? Y'all have gotten that going. That still people can jump in there, correct?
Yeah, it's a one-time deal. So basically you go through, we're going to continue to add content. So we'll add maybe one more speaker this summer, and we'll probably add 2 or 3 more speakers next year. So cool part about that one is you pay for it once, and you may come back next year, and we've added 5 speakers. And so it's
awesome.
Very much in line with whatever offense you run. We're trying to get guys that run all types of offense, so that there's something for everybody in the O-line academy.
Awesome. And then, we've pitched it many times, guys. If you don't have a hat yet, some type of a sun hat, keep the sun off your face, your neck. Get over to it's coachescap.com, right?
Right.
And get Kenny's sun hat. It's just, it's his patent inventor now. The whistle comes connected to the hat. So instead of just being a hat lanyard and having to wear another whistle lanyard, all in one, whistles on the end of your hat. You don't forget your hat and you don't forget your whistle. Now, Coach, if you can just get it to combine a pen and all the paperwork I just drew up for the day for practice, for install or game plan or scripting, if it could hold all of that, I would quit forgetting stuff.
Well, that's
But
what I had.
as for now,
Yeah, they wanted me to put a little loop on it where you could put your pen down in it. And I said,
yeah, there we go. That's not a bad idea. Just keep adding to it. Coachescap.com. For me, just, jump over to, what am I doing right now? Patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. That's where I'm going to start doing bi-weekly videos, meaning every other week. Zoom calls. So just answering questions, social call, whatever you need it to be. And it's all for a monthly fee on Patreon. It's like $5 or $10 or something. Not very much. It's just helping me support my family as I transition from teacher coach to non-teacher coach, which in Oklahoma, it's not that big of a loss in money, but it is, at least a supplemental income. So we got to figure out how to make the ends meet so that I don't have to go back and teach kids because they drove me crazy last year. At least I need 1 year off. And then on YouTube, man, I've started doing some live things. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it. The Coffee with Coach Chabo. I'm knocking it out each morning, somewhere between 8 and noon. I still drink coffee after noon. I don't know if you guys do or don't, but just going to talk about 20, 30 minutes of football, nothing too big. And I'd just love to have you guys come in and jump in on the live chat. So right now it's on Twitter and YouTube. I'm sure I'll add Facebook as I get more comfortable with. It's still hard to find, like, you go live on Twitter, it's hard to find the comments and stuff when you do it from a third party. I use OBS. So, but yeah, jump over there. Coffee with Coach Chambo. It's live, Twitter live or YouTube live. Sweet. Let's get to talking here, man. So question 1 here. Apparently I shut the whole script down. There we go. So we're talking about, like Kenny said, we're talking about coming back out of this summer break. So what are we doing? Like for us, it's tomorrow. Kenny, it's tomorrow. I'm sure most of you guys are, which will be today. We're going to release this on Monday because we were so busy recording it. So today, what are you doing at football? And so, kind of we want to talk about the main goals here. So Coach Simpson, why don't you tell us what is the main goal for you guys when you come out of this break and you get back to this like mid-July working into your season? What is that schedule? What is the main goals there?
We kind of divide out our off season in a couple phases. So you have, right after the season's over till about springtime, we don't even touch a football. We're just trying to gain weight, get faster, get stronger. Basically, our entire football time budget, if you call it that, is going to be dedicated to the weight room. As coaches, we're learning scheme and we're trying to talk behind the scenes. But as far as the kids are concerned, from football season's over till really April, because in our area it's just cold and all over the place with weather, we're going to focus on that stuff. Then we have spring football. We're blessed to have a time to go out and do spring football. For us, that time's about evaluating new guys, trying some new things, kind of seeing the differences in our team. Then we have the early phase of the summer. So, we give them a week off after school's out and we bring them back early June. And again, for us, it's a whole lot of evaluation. At this point, we've kind of got an idea, but we still want to let some things play out with position battles. We want to let things kind of work their way through with scheme. Are we going to keep this or get rid of this? But we're still relatively, I don't want to say laid back because that's not the right word, but we're still putting more time probably in the weight room time than we are in the football time. Like that's kind of our month of June. We come back tomorrow or today, as you said, we're dropping this off. Now it kind of switches gears just a little bit. Not a ton, but there is a switch. We kind of rev it a little bit in July, but we really hit it hard in August. So we don't want to just go crazy during July, but we do want to accomplish a few things. So here's the things that we're looking to accomplish. We want to try to figure out decisions based on personnel. Like we would like to have that relatively ironed out. as much as possible going into August, like going into where, okay, we're going to start playing like real things. We don't really want to have a position battle brewing that isn't somewhat solved. Now, nothing can be perfect. You have some that are going to be close, and you're just going to keep letting them play out. But we tell our kids early on in the spring, everyone gets the same amount of reps. June, we start to kind of move a little bit to varsity JV. July, that starts to define itself a little bit more. So by the time you get to August, you kind of know these are our Friday night guys, these are our Monday night guys, and roughly here's who's going to play what spots and how much. So that's important for us. We want to get that done in July. We start to kind of rev up our practice. We shift from mainly weightlifting to maybe a little bit of 40 minutes or so on the field to where it kind of flips. Now we're going to go maybe 30, 40 minutes in the weight room and maybe an hour 20 on the field, refining some of the stuff we're doing, making sure we feel good about scheme. And we tried some stuff in the spring. We tried some stuff in June. We're cutting out what we don't like, and we're playing with maybe some stuff that we want to add in. You're going to add stuff in, you got to get rid of other stuff. So July is kind of that month for us where we don't like this, let's get rid of it and try this. Because we want to get into August and kind of know where we're going. What are we doing? What are we going to make our money on? We want to make sure our coaches are all on the same page. I'm a big believer that if a coach can take a vacation or they have other obligations, we got one that's going to have a baby in July. We got guys that are sell fireworks like I do. We got guys that are grandpas, and we got all kinds of things going on. So you're rarely going to have them all together. But we want to at least meet 2 or 3 times a month as a group, however that needs to be, to just make sure we're all on the same page with personnel, scheme, that kind of stuff. Usually we'll start to set our end of summer stuff that we'll do. So like in August, we come back, I give my guys off a break. End of July, they get a week break. And then we come back in August, and now we're in the season pretty much. But we're going to set like a work day for August. We do mother-son date night. We do a father-son deal. We do a lot of things in August that we have to set up in July. So when we come back, they're ready to go. So we're going to make sure all our coaches are on the same page with that. If we've had to move coaches, because sometimes you get that, like a new coach gets hired or a coach leaves, you may have to shuffle guys around, but we like the month of July to kind of be, this is where you're going to be this year. Now you can get settled. We start to look at opponents. So defensively, if we're going to play some double wing or option or air raid or whatever it might be, we start to show those kids that more during defensive time. The same thing on offense. Offensively for us, it's really hard to predict. We don't really know, but we start to show them, if we've played teams before, these are some of the common looks we're going to get. Or before, we would just scrimmage, our offense versus our defense, try to get a good look. Well, now it's going to be much more scout. Like we're going to give you the look of what you're going to see for our games coming up so that we can start to identify potential problems. Like, do we suck against the option? We need to spend more time on that. Or are we bad against 2 tight ends? Do we need to look at some personnel changes before the week of the game? So you kind of have this month here to play around with that. We try to go to 2 or 3 team camps. So we're lucky in Arkansas where you can go to padded camps. And so we'll schedule really 2 high-quality ones where we know we're going to go against teams that are probably a little better than we are, and probably a little bigger schools, a lot more athletes to work with, to expose issues that we're going to have so that we can start kind of planning for those issues. So we try to make sure we have at least 2, what I call bigger team camps. And then we usually end July. I actually take my kids up to St. Louis. We do a gun tee camp up there at Oakville. It's kind of it's a bonding experience, plus a little football. We try to end our summer there, give our kids a week off, and we bring them back that first Monday in August to get ready. So that's kind of what we're looking for as far as windows and time.
That's that seems like a really great schedule, a great strategy to do that. I like the way you talked about moving from even reps for everybody, and now we start chiseling down. Like if you're a starter, you're going to get a little more workload you're probably at the position you're going to play. Varsity JV. I think that's really a good way to do it. And we don't really. I don't know that we'll even have a JV squad this year just because we're so small. I mean, everyone's kind of varsity. We discussed having a freshman team. I don't know that that's even going to happen, right? I don't know that our numbers are there. So we don't suffer from that, but what we do suffer from is like everyone's already on the field. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, we're going to, we'll kind of turn it up. Tomorrow we'll start or today, I guess, whatever. As this comes out, we will, we'll start doing our athletic speed and movement training. We get a little quicker, a little more agility. I would have loved to had it in earlier in the year. It is a 12-week program. And so you kind of want to get that started either before spring ball or just as you come through spring ball. So your summertime, you're just, you're laying that in, you kind of get in the season fully developed with one rotation through the program. But just timing, it didn't work out. So we'll get that started tomorrow. We still, as coaches, are figuring out the system, like what we're going to do offensively, defensively. I've already started the scouting like you talked about, Coach. There was a time that we were just running our stuff on offense, and I knew the defense, what he was going to run, and it matched up with what we want to do really well. So we had some poor throws, some poorly called plays, because like you said, we weren't scouting. I want the kids, the receivers, to be in a bad place. Like, yes, the defense beats you here. Make something happen. We can't call the perfect play every single time in a game. So figure it out here. And so I kind of liked that. So we're still ironing out exactly what we want to be on both sides of the ball, where coaches are going to fit best. And then, I think we get one more 7-on-7 tournament. I believe we had a date that got dropped earlier in the year. So then I think it's on the last day before we can't touch a ball anymore until whatever it is, August 12th or something this year. So Oklahoma's a little different, a little bit weird in that sense. And so we will, I'm not even sure all the rules get so ridiculous. Like you can't practice for 7-on-7. All you can do is show up at a 7-on-7 event and perform. Like that's the only time you can touch a ball is at this event. So very, very strange rules. And then as we get in that August, just like everybody else, we start kind of tuning it up. Working on the install schedule. It was nice to get that spring ball, and I do see why some coaches don't worry about it because the kids are so different, especially now when we have our own transfer portal, we have our own NIL, we have kids going everywhere. We were day 2 in spring this year, and an offensive lineman who I'd given the entire playbook to and done install for 2 days then tells us, oh yeah, by the way, I'm transferring to the crosstown rival. Thanks for the playbook, right? So it's like that stuff happens then. It's going to happen through the summer. So we'll kind of figure out how that goes. So I think our main goal now is just locking in exactly who we're going to be. I think the kids are pretty well position wise. They know where they're going to be at as well. Maybe our personnel packages, I try to figure out where we want to use tight end. Do we have a kid that fits there? We want to just split him out or make him more of an H-back type. So we got some fun football stuff to get done before we get into August. Question 2 here, you talk about install, adding and refining. What do you have? I assume you have an install schedule that you've already got such a base for. So you're in a neat position where you've been there several years. The kids from last year they still have the playbook. Probably not memorized. I'm sure they'll change some things. You have to reteach it. But going in as a first year, I'll have kids show up that I've never seen. And so we still have to reinstall everything again. So our schedule looked a little different from yours. Do you still go back over all the base stuff from here on out?
We do. I think, like you mentioned, we probably can go quicker through it, but we still are going to talk about, this is what buck sweep is and what we're trying to accomplish with buck sweep. And, like you said, especially with the way kids transfer, we added 7 kids this year that have never been in our program. And we had 3 or 4 come out that had never played football. So, that's 10 kids that have never been through your program. You can't just assume they know. So, I think any offense, even if you run it for 20 years, you're still going to have to kind of in spring go through, this is what this play is and what we're trying to accomplish on this play. And then we have little tweaks that we look at. every year. We're not really just adding random stuff to our offense, but we're looking at, okay, this is something we do well. Well, this will marry very well with it. We might try this new RPO and see how you like it. We might try a couple of these new formations and motions and shifts and just kind of wrinkles and see if our kids can pick up on it. So I think that's kind of, in my mind, that's when they say refining. You're refining your offense with little tweaks. And that's what, at this point in July, unless you just took a new job, and I was there 3-4 years ago, that sucks. When you come in, you're not coming in until after debt week, you just took a job. That's a tough spot to be. But assuming
Right.
you've been there, you ought to be at this point refining, in my opinion, not adding. Like there's a difference in that. Like you've already, let's say you're going to make your money running mesh. You ought to have put
Right.
that in the spring and now be working on all the variations of ways you're going to run mesh or checking it. This is not the time you want to come back from. This is a dangerous time for coaches because they sit on the beach and they get on Twitter and they get their notepad out. And I've already had 4 of them yesterday and today send me some great stuff that they want to put in. You're
Right.
in July. Like you're in July. What are you, if you're going to do it, what are you taking out? Because I'm going to assume you're not great at exactly what you're doing. Like I know we're not, and we've run it for however many years. You need to spend your time refining what you're doing, maybe adding in some wrinkles. But if you add, you got to take out. Like if you add something in, what's coming out? That's why I hear a lot of coaches say that, we're going to run 8 run plays and we're going to run, 9 pass plays. And you're already probably a little bit heavy, in my opinion.
Right.
Like I think you need to kind of marry yourself. This year we've gone to now the way we're running jet is like we run Trojan. So now we took a play out. We don't run jet, and we run jet, but it's the blocking scheme is the same. The way we run belly and quick belly is exactly the same. So in my mind, I know we have, 6 runs, but really we have 4 because 2 of those are run the same way, but quick side or strong side. And the same thing with our passing scheme. We may run a lot of flavors of smash, but it's still smash. And so I think that, to me, just be careful as you kind of get into that because a lot of guys will come back from the beach. They've been on vacation. They talked with another coach and they had a really great idea, and that's fine. But if you're putting it in, what's coming out? And the second question is, how does that marry with everything else on your offense? Like, how does that fit what you were already working to accomplish? And if you can't answer those 2 questions, problems. I'm going to get back to personnel decisions too, because I know that's kind of this part of this section also. Like, I think at this point, as a coach, you may have some true position battles, but most of them you probably know. Like, you probably have a gut feeling one way or another. There might be one or two spots that you really don't know because you haven't been able to get in pads and there's extenuating circumstances. For the most part, though, you kind of know. And I think you're doing kids a disservice either not telling them the truth about where they stand at that point or, or leading them on and even misleading them.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes happens a lot with coaches where we're just going to let it play out. We're just going to let it play out. We're just going to let it play out. You need to make sure you're being honest in that because kids they see through that. They're not dumb. They figure it out. Better to have the hard conversation now and tell the kid we are looking for a role for you. It's just maybe not the role you wanted. I think those are conversations you have to have is there's a place for you on this team. You're a kid we're going to get on the field. It just might not be, whatever. Maybe it's not, you're not going to be a starter, but you're on special teams. Maybe it's not, you're not going to be a corner, but you can play receiver, or you're not going to be a D lineman, but we think you can play on the tight end. And so those conversations have to happen because a lot of times what will end up happening in July is position battles will go out, and then you get to August, and now you have crisis mode because it all kind of hit the fan at once. You never really warned the kid, and now week 1, Johnny's starting, you're not even playing. So a kid went from thinking I'm in the mix to start to you're not even touching the field. And I think as a coach, you can soften that blow and you can give yourself less headaches if that conversation has happened early and you've told the kid, here's your opportunities to get on the field. If you'll take them, this is where you have a chance. I have a lot of coaches say, well, coach, I don't know what to do. I can't find linemen. Well, man, go to your third string tight end, fourth string receiver, and say, look, if you want a chance to play, this is where it's going to be. Or you can sit on the
Yep.
bench. And a lot of times kids will surprise you. They want to play. Now you have a few that are not going to do it. But more often than not, I've had the kids say, Coach, I just want to play. And so, and that kid you can work with.
Absolutely. Last section here. How do you adjust your weight room and conditioning? And I know I'll let you go first here. I kind of discussed speed. I want to see what you look at with speed and conditioning, and how you get ready to be in game shape, as we all try to pretend we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're the speed guy. You're pitching the speed products. I'll let you close it out. I'll just tell you my thoughts on it. There are a lot of good speed programs. I'm sure Daniel has a really good one. Tony Holler's another one that has a really good one. There are a lot of good speed products out there. All of them tend to have the same elements in them. Just like there's always this offense is good and that offense is good and that defense is good and this defense is good. But all of them
Right.
always contain the same basic truths. In my opinion, in the speed world, the truths that I've learned or I'm trying to learn or I believe are true are less is more. And when you run, it's got to be full speed. There's a lot of ways you can accomplish that. You can time everything and give out miles per hour bands like Tony does. I'm sure in Daniel's program, they probably have some other tests that you do. But basically, just like you would do in a weight room, you want to lift and see where you are and lift again and see where you get to and hold kids accountable. And you don't want to do bench every day, and you don't want to do 17 sets of 10 on bench. But sometimes when we get to speed, that's exactly how we do it. We're going to run half gassers and we're going to run hundreds and we're going to overtrain them, or we're going to train them every single day and think it's helping with speed. It's not.
Right.
It's not. Our sport requires you to be at your peak one day a week. We're blessed in that world if you coach football. We don't have 14 games a week. We don't have 300 basketball games a week. We need our kids at peak physical ability one day a week. And so when you train for speed, it's, I think, absurd to ask kids to train more than really 2 or 3 times a week. You go more than that, you're really conditioning. And while we're on conditioning, let's talk a little bit about that. You cannot condition to play football except by playing football. Like, that's how you condition to play football. I was probably the epitome of that. I probably ran a 19-minute mile, but if you put a ball in my hand, I could probably play 17 games of basketball full speed all day long. Same thing in football. But we train them doing things that aren't football. I've seen the Twitter things where you get guys with pool noodles and they're playing sharks and minnows and they're trying to do all this different stuff just to simulate football. Well, you train for football by playing football. Like, I'm sure there are drills you can run, but the same thing in conditioning. Like, if you're doing anything more than 4 seconds, I don't really know if that's football. And I'll say, my son got invited to a camp. I hope they don't listen to this podcast. Who knows? He did a drill with the DBs where he went for 47 seconds. A drill for 47 seconds. It was 900 degrees outside. He locked up, couldn't finish the camp. Well, am I not in shape? No. Tell me when we're going to run a 47-second playing football. When you can tell me that was a good drill. Otherwise, all they were doing was taking your money. Like, that's really all it was a guy who doesn't know really what he's doing. And I don't mean to be ugly, but if you're running drills for that long and that kind of heat with kids, I mean, at best, you're naive and ignorant. At worst, you're going to get somebody hurt. That's kind of where you are when you get in conditioning. So as coaches, you need to think about that stuff. I'm not a guy saying be soft on your kids. They need to be tough. They need to be ready to go play football. But you do that by running plays. You do that by playing defense. You do that by scrimmaging football. Like you do that by playing football and making sure that we're hustling during the plays. If they're
Right.
not, chew their butts because that's how you get in shape. Because ultimately, football is a 4 second sprint, a 30-second rest, a 4 second sprint. So your conditioning needs to match that. We would prefer to do it with a ball in our hands so our kids aren't thinking about it. If you want to do it by running 40s or 20s, have at it. But you need to structure it that way. What else? Something else on this. We also kind of move our weight room a little bit, not a ton. Like we did our last max, like true max, probably sometime in June. We probably will not max them at 100% again, unless there's some younger kid maybe that's doing whatever. We're probably going to live in that 70 to 85% range. I'm not a big fan of overkilling your kids, but I also I think it's more sets of more than 8 at this point. I don't know if they're helping you accomplish what you want to accomplish. So our reps are going to be from 8 to probably 3. That's kind of where we're going to live with our reps. 70 to 80%, probably in that world, depending on the lift. And then we may adjust and take out some of the more, we'll call them dangerous, but like power clean is a lift that you could hurt a wrist, you could do whatever. So we're probably going to do like high pulls, something in the world that's accomplishing the same lift.
Take the complexity and the multi joints out, right?
Right, like heavy back squat. We may change that to front squat, or we may change that to another version of squat, just to make sure we're not going to have anybody tweak anything as we kind of move into the season. That would be our adjustments in the weight room.
Yeah, well, I'll close out with speed. Talk about conditioning here, and I love what you said, and I say the same thing. If it doesn't, it's just like your dadgum football drills. If your football drills don't look like football, like you said, you need to be answering some pretty hard questions to convince me. What are you simulating? Because drills should just be a simulation of a small piece of the game. If I'm not doing that, I always, I think of the Gator rolls or whatever, right? Where they have D linemen, one goes under over, and like that looks cool on a movie. For what is it? Remember the Titans? They do it or something. Tell me at least one time. Tell me one time in a game where you've seen someone have to roll under his buddy who's jumping over him. No, it doesn't make sense, right? So your drills better look like football, and I think conditioning is the same way. I was introduced. And if you listen to both podcasts, you're going to get another regurgitation of this whenever that other episode comes out. We weirdly just talk conditioning over there too. But Coach Bo Collins, who's been on the podcast before, he introduced me to his, and he stole it from a coach who had stole it from a coach. But it was just sprints, and it was like varying distances. So you just run up and down the field. It's like going on a drive, right? Like a football drive. You sprint 5 yards. You stop for 20 seconds. You sprint 15. You stop for 20. You do varying distances of sprints just like you would do in a football game. Now, every position isn't going to run 20 yards on a play, right? I mean, O-line's going to block real hard for 5 yards and get the heck out of the way and let speed guys go do their thing. So even it isn't perfect, but it gets you away from gassers, half gassers, hundreds, 20s, all those track sprint things that we want to do. And I was pretty, early in my football career, I wanted mainly big guys to go run a mile. And it was less about conditioning for football. It was more about mental toughness. When you get onto that second, third lap, you have to hit a switch. But I also wasn't using it in late August getting ready for a game, right? That was a summer, once a week thing. So even then we had a reasoning for it. When I got to Owasso, I got introduced to what they call metabolics, and it's really what I think is the best conditioning. And you just go out with your position group, obviously a big school, so they did offense on the field, defense on the field. You go out with your position group and you do 4 to 10 or whatever reps of just football drills. So it might be a key read. It's a run read. You're working your run fit, and then you got to chase it to the sideline as a linebacker, right? And then the next one, it's a pass read. You got to get to your pass zone, and then pursuit drill. So it just ties everything back to football, to those football-like drills. So you really do just take that section. You come out and you run however many plays. Like I said, 4 to 8, 4 to 10. And then you come off the field and the offense takes the field and they go do their conditioning. And then you rotate back and forth. So you play like a mini game, like you said, like scrimmaging, no contact, no one's getting hurt. There's not even a ball in the air. Like, you're just doing football drills. And I thought, man, that's what I think conditioning needs to be more like. Because the truth is, we can't go out and scrimmage all the time, right? You can't scrimmage every single day. You can't. We have so many rules nowadays against contact and even having a football on the field, what equipment you can wear. So I think that one best mimicked the game, and you don't lose people. Talk about lifting. I think we just really go to maintenance. Is how I would. Everything you said is exactly what I think, Coach. We're going back, and now we're not yet, not today when this thing comes out. We're still going to be trying to pack on a few more pounds here for the couple weeks. As August 1 comes around, though, we just got to go into maintenance mode and just, you are as strong as you're going to be this year. We're not going to not lift. We still want to get in there and get after it, but we understand that the objective has changed. Derek, that used to work with you, right? He's the one that he came on. I think he came on with Joe and I and just talked about it takes you 14 days or something to lose your strength, right? To where your workout would show a reduction in strength, to lose your muscle mass or whatever. Transitioning that to speed, and he says, it takes like 3 days to start losing your top speed, or 3 to 5 days, something like that. So, like you said, we often are worried about, we got to get these lifts in, we have to get these lifts in, but we quit working speed, or it's just conditioning. Hey, we're going to run these gassers, and that's your sprint for the day. So your speed work, and then that's your conditioning work. And we try to carry that out through a season. So we don't want to do that anymore. Puts us into speed. I think just where I'm a little different, and because of the people that I've worked with, right? It's all network. It's kind of who you know develops what you do as a coach. And so, we want to stay away from the track stuff. And I know that, you talked about Tony Holler, and he was on a podcast, loved him. I've seen some of his stuff. I love a lot of his stuff. I don't want to do track running with our guys. So like A skips, B skips, C skips. We try to stay out of that. And I actually was just, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw the other day I shared, and it might even been a couple year old video, but it was the American national sprint team winning the 4x1 or whatever it was, right? They went out and won a world title at the sprint. And I kind of laughed because it was the 4 fastest women in the world together on a team. And not one time did a single kneecap come above a waistline. They were, just absolutely getting it. I don't know if they set a world record that day, but they definitely won world title. And so, just like we want football practice to mimic football, I want football speed training to mimic football speed. And the truth is, no one in my team is going to go out there and have their knees to their chest as they're trying to sprint down the field and break away for a touchdown. Not only that, but very few plays get into a sprint. Most of them you're cutting back, you're working within, blockers. What are the 2 foundational pieces of football? It's blocking and tackling. So as a ball carrier, I'm not even one of the foundational pieces. I'm really trying to use one to beat the other. And so, look, guys, you have a 4.3 40 guy, a 4.4 40 guy. You're probably just throwing him the ball and let him run however he wants. But our speed program just teaches kids how to run, number one, because we all know high school kids are gangly. They've gained either height, length, weight, something, and they don't know where their body is. That body awareness is what I call it, but spatial awareness of what do your arms look like when you're running right now? What do you look like? They don't know because they just grew that body. They don't know how to operate it yet. So, we spend a few weeks getting that lined out, but that helps every kid. It's not, I love, like, you talked about the mile per hour wristbands and stuff, but I think that, talk about all your O linemen. I mean, how many skill kids and how many linemen are on the field at the same time? Well, it's an even number, right? It's 5 and 5. So I want a program that also gets my O linemen better in the speed world. And so I think that's what ours does really well. Teach them how to use their body, how to change direction, acceleration, deceleration. But just like you said, Kenny, it's 2 to 3 days a week. Once you get to that first 5 weeks where you're teaching them how to run and how to accelerate and how to decelerate, you get into your sprint days, and then it's just sprint days from that point on, right? You're working change of direction, things like that. So that's how our speed, we have an in-season program as well, and it's the same thing. It's sprint early, get it over with, get your speed work done for the day, and then get to practice. So, Yeah, I think it seems like we're on the same pages for a lot of that stuff. Your conditioning, I want to see. I need to see Kenny Simpson conditioning at football because I think it would be
We don't.
a neat one.
Yeah, we don't condition. We run plays.
Just do it in the drills, right? Like you just do it at practice.
Yeah, I mean and also this we're not. No one's perfect. You know, obviously, no one's in shape week one. Nobody.
That's right.
But we feel like we're in as good a shape as they are because we do a lot of football things when we're tired. Like into practice, get on the field, we got to drive 80 yards and kick a field goal. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to do to condition. And then we're going to make sure we run our punt team out there. And if they don't have 11, there's going to be some kind of punishment. So
Right.
there's a mental capacity because what's the statement by Vince Lombardi? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. I think
Absolutely.
it's not physical fatigue. That's part of it. Is mental fatigue. Like this generation of kids is tough enough, but mentally they're not, and that's what we want to condition. I want to condition their brain to tell them they can keep going and function at what we need them to do. And I don't think you have to do that by running miles. You can tire them out running buck sweep 20 times in a row, like we're going to do in
That's
a
right.
game. And then can you do it now? And so I think that's kind of where we live. I think the last year was the first year we went away from conditioning, and I did not see it affect our kids one bit.
The game shape conversation is really important to have because, like you said, no one is in week 6 to week 10 game shape in week 1.
Until
It's
they
just
play a
you
game.
can't. There's not enough time. And if you're a coach that's out there trying to do that, if your goal is to not be tired at all on Friday, you have two things. One, you're going to run the legs off your players. They're going to show up Friday having conditioned 2, 3, 4 football games before they ever get there to play the one that matters. And two, you're going to have a whole lot of kids that aren't going to give you any effort throughout practice and maybe even during a game because they're all worried about keeping a reserve tank. Oh, I know we're going to condition at the end of practice. I got to run all them gassers. Why the hell would I give my all for team run or team O or my indie group? I mean, I've seen it on my practice film, right? We have receivers that are mentally conditioned to shut down when they're the backside receiver and they know they're not getting looked at in practice. Because they're so used to, at the end of this, I'm going to have to go run gassers. I'm going to have to do something stupid for conditioning. I better save some energy. Think about if you're just adding more conditioning on because your star running back is exhausted in the fourth quarter because he carried the ball 35 times. He better be tired. He absolutely better be exhausted. If you're going to give him the rock and he's going to go out there and give it his all, he absolutely needs to be exhausted in the fourth quarter. And there's nothing you're going to do Monday through Thursday that's going to change that for him Friday.
All you're wanting to do as a coach with conditioning is I don't know how we've digressed into this, but that's fine. All you're really trying to do is see how tough your kids are going to be when the chips are down. That's all you're trying to do is really figure out how will you respond when everything is going wrong. You can do that a lot of ways. Like I can call horrible plays for my quarterback in practice and see. I can chirp at him a little bit and see. I can find that out without having to just run gassers. Like I don't really know what that does. I can find out how tough you are pretty quickly. And then you make assessments from there of, okay, a couple of years ago, I won't just say how many years ago because I don't know if the kid listens to the podcast or not, but a couple of years ago, we knew our quarterback really just kind of struggled in the high pressure situation, which is not a great place to be as a coach. So we would try to work those situations in practice and watch him take sack after sack on fourth down or in the 2-minute drill. And those are like your only rules are don't take a sack. And we knew, unfortunately, it wasn't a great feeling, but I knew if the chips were down, I better call something else. Like I can't put the
Right.
game on his shoulders. I already knew the answer. Like I didn't have to line him up and run him or yell at him or anything else. Like I just put him in high pressure situations and watched him not answer the call. And you can do that with your players. That's mental toughness. Mental toughness is can you perform in a high pressure situation or are you willing to do something you know is going to hurt? Those are the two things you're trying to find out. That's it. And so I don't think you have to run miles with kids to do that, or do Oklahoma drill. There's a lot of things that we do to try to drive that point home. And if you honestly, there was probably a good intention behind that. Like taking guys out running a mile is a good way to train mental toughness. Taking kids and putting them in Oklahoma drill is a good way to train physical toughness. I think that stuff is kind of phased out of the game. Like I think there are
Absolutely.
other ways you can do that.
For sure. 100%. Awesome, Coach. Well, man, I think we knocked it out of the park here tonight. Guys, you have to think about all of these different phases. Kenny, I love you talked about phases and what do we do now, right? You've hopefully had a good June lift, came back. We all got this 4th of July off and took some kind of a break. Start to think about what's important. You got to prioritize things now. Who's getting some more field work. You talked about Kenny. You're already turning down the weight room just a touch, a degree or two, right, and getting back on the field a little more. And that's hopefully you have a plan. If you don't, contact one of us, and we'll help you devise a plan because it isn't just. I don't think you need to just repeat June. That doesn't make sense. June's over. That point of this offseason had a plan. It had a purpose, and we've moved on from it. So, all right, man. Last piece here. What not to do as a coach.
Yeah, so one of the things I see a lot during like these dead weeks is, you'll see guys that, hey, we're coming in and grinding over the break, and that's the word. I hate that word, by the way, grinding or anything like that. Yeah, I think that has no place in football. Like you're a military guy, you know what it means to grind. Like it's not going in and coaching. That's easy. So I don't like that word, but you see it all the time where a guy's on vacation and he's still attached to football, and it's a danger. Like a danger for me, it's a danger for you. When we do a podcast, we make a little bit of a living, not just coaching, but working with coaches. So football is always there. It's always there, and some guys have a real hard time letting it go. I think as a coach, you need to be very aware of it's okay in July to miss. Like it's okay to go on vacation over the 4th of July and not worry
For sure.
about football. And I'm taking a vacation at the last week of July. We're going to hammer hard for 3 weeks. And then my wife and I are going to go on a real vacation, go back to our vacation.
Hey, there we go.
And I think it's okay. And I encourage my other coaches to do the same thing. Well, coach, you want to stay up here with the kids? No, I want all of you to get away. I want the kids to get away. I want everyone to get away so that, we're fresh when it comes time to be fresh. Because there's a lot of teams that football's 12 months a year. And those kids, their senior year, are ready to be done. Like, I think that's a miserable place to be as a program, is if you have kids that, like, going into the season are already ready, like, man, they're dreading it. I think they need to be excited about what you're doing, ready to go. And the only way they're going to do that is if football is run during football season, and then they're able to be kids during the off season and coaches too. And so I think a lot of times as coaches, hopefully you had a good dead week or weeks or whatever your state allows you to have, but don't ever feel guilt like for taking time off. A lot of times we look around and go, well, man, they're working 5 days a week. We're only going 4 days a week. Or, hey, these guys their coaching staff comes in on Sundays and Saturdays and breaks down film, and we don't do that. And we just kind of equate because we just compare that more hours is always success. That's not always true. I think a team that's fresh and ready to go and believing in what you're doing is going to be ultimately more successful down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's top to bottom. You talk about the kids, but also the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be mentally refreshed. Get away, do something else. I eat that stuff up, and I get a 2-week break from football to go do military, so it's not a physical or mental break at all, but it is
Different.
getting away from football. It is different. And this year, I mean, I just took another week. Like I also need time with my family. That 2 weeks doesn't get me any closer to my family. In fact, I'm further away. I tell you, as a young coach, if you start buying into this, you'll be happier as a coach. It may take time to find the right staff because there's still got, like you said, there's guys out there right now that are still 7 days a week trying to win a game in November or whatever, right? Like take the break. If your staff doesn't like it that much, there's hundreds and hundreds of other football staffs out there,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is doing it the way that matters. And that doing it right. So
Well, we're gonna have.
awesome, man.
We're coming
Oh,
back
go
from
ahead.
break. I'll give you one more story here. We're coming back from break. My starting quarterback, he went to Jamaica with his family, and then he's playing in like some national high, really, really high, not like one of those fake ones, like a real high level AAU basketball deal. He's gonna miss next week. Old me would have been like, "Well, man, you need to. I wish you were here," and be frustrated. Well, man, that's a great opportunity. If they win
Yeah.
that, they're going to play for what. And I know some of that stuff can be not real, but he's playing in like a real one, and so you want him to do well. And we've got another one who's at a baseball showcase because he wants to play college baseball. And I think you have to allow kids to do stuff. Like if I was an old school, is my way or the highway, those kids might not be playing football for me. Like they might be playing just basketball or just baseball. And I think as a coach, you got to be really, really careful of kind of hammering kids on taking vacations, going to church camps, other sports. I think you hold them accountable if they're just being lazy. But I think you need to work with kids that have other things going on, or you're really going to box yourself in. Sorry to last a little bit there.
No, that's good. Last minute, we're going to talk about the sponsors one more time. So, Ace Sports, reach out to Mark or Ryan. Ryan is the guy that working here in Oklahoma. Mark seems to run the other 49 states. So, if you're looking for a video board fundraising opportunity, it is a big ticket item, and it may take you a year or so to get everybody in your area on board. But Kenny's living proof that it's worth it. I've talked to other coaches that have got the boards. It's worth it. I've sat and talked to Mark multiple times now. He's talking about no school too small. He's done it at the smallest 1A, and he's been, one of the bigger 6As in Oklahoma, and I'm sure every other state. All of our A's are different, so your school can fit that too. And then FBCoachSimpson.com, right? Get the gun T system. And that is also a buy once, cry once, right, Coach? And then you're in it for life. Whatever gets added, I love the way you do that, man. That is really neat. You just keep getting new material as Kenny keeps producing it. Check out the academies, offensive, defensive coordinators, and O-line academy. Ton of good ones there. Jump over, see me on Patreon, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you're, whatever you need in football, I imagine one of the two of us have got the answers. Kenny's got them. I'm the guy that's learning how to give them to you. So I've probably got a few, and maybe mine are more. I have the leadership stuff a little bit because the Army pays me good money to be a leader, I guess. I don't know. Social media. I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can go over to ChamberlainFootballConsulting.com. It's where I'm just kind of showing off the stuff I'm doing. Eventually become a sales site, but I don't have the knowledge to make it that way yet. And then ChamberlainFootballConsulting@gmail.com is my email. Like I said, YouTube is the same. Facebook, it's just my name. So Daniel Bryce Chamberlain. You can find me on there and add me. Coach Simpson, where were you at, man?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So Daniel, you kind of hit it. Gun T system, 3-4 swarm. I've got now 40 some odd books. They're all over at fbcoachsimpson.com. We have the Offensive Coordinator Academy, Defensive Coordinator Academy, Head Coach Academy. All those are available too. Just look for FB Coach Simpson. You'll find me on Twitter or fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com, and you'll find me through email. So any of that stuff, and if we can sell something, that's great. If you just have a question or you have an issue or want to learn a little football and want something for free, I got a ton of stuff on YouTube. You probably just look up my name. Our podcasts are on YouTube. So if you're hearing this one not on YouTube, you can go back and watch all of these podcasts we put together and a ton of gun tea, a ton of other stuff, all on my YouTube channel.
See how animated we are as we talk to each other through a camera. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter/X. I want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.